distinguished panelists, and ladies and gentlemen, as they would say in South Africa, all protocol observed. It has been a really important 3 days that we have been through. And maybe as we've come now to the close, I'd just like to share some thoughts with you, an overview from a non-scientist, non-engineer. But from a driver. And maybe I'll attempt to give the overview by maybe telling you 2 stories. And I hope that from those 2 stories, you will take something with you as we go forth into the next year to see what are we going to do from the outcome of this Congress. And by looking by the experts that we've had over the last 3 days presenting on various subject matters, it reminded me of a story which maybe applies to me in terms of my background and discipline. That the story goes of a professor who was going in that country from village to village, region to region, driving about a new development that was going to come to town, and talking about what the benefits would be to the society, what the benefits would be to the economy, but also what impact it would have, both positive and adverse, and how that can be. And this professor, he was being driven around by this driver who knew how to drive a vehicle and drive it well. And he could drive safely to every destination where they went. And as this professor was doing this presentation over and over and over and over, the driver, of course, was sitting in the audience and listening. And it so happened that as they were on this journey, the professor then confessed to the driver that, I am just tired. I'm saying exactly the same thing over and over, and the questions are exactly the same from each audience. And I just wish I didn't have to do this anymore because there is no challenge. And at that time, the driver thought I should give a challenge and said, well, maybe I should do the next presentation for you. I have listened to you present. I have memorized word for word everything that you say. Allow me to swap roles with you, that you become the driver, I become the professor. And the professor thought, well, maybe it's a time for a challenge, so he accepted. And at the next town, lo and behold, the driver became the professor. And he started to present, and he was absolutely good. Word for word, he was eloquent. And at the end of the presentation, of course, what is always in the script is that, are there any questions? And it's at that point in time that the first question that came up was right at the back of the auditorium from another professor, who then asked and said, well, professor, in your last book, on page 183, on the second paragraph, when you spoke about this formulation and how we come to the subject matter of your conclusions, can you please expound further, because it doesn't quite make sense? And of course, this was not in the script. This was a question that had never been asked before. And it was at that point in time that the professor or the driver who was not the professor said, throughout this journey of presentation, this is the most easiest question I've ever been asked. Even my driver right here can answer that. So I'll give him the opportunity to do so. And what am I making by that? The story really, why I'm telling that is, as we move from this Congress, as I mentioned to you, I'm from investment banking background, and over the many years, I've spent a great deal of time with geologists, with engineers, with chemical engineers or engineers from all disciplines. But I've got to appreciate that it is important that as much as I might be a driver being in the position of the CEO of a company, it is absolutely crucial for me to be intimately involved and know of what is happening. And therefore, this Congress over the last 3 days has added to the knowledge base. And I hope that to those non-engineers and non-scientists that were in the room, were able to take a number of good, valuable points that have come from here. But more importantly, that as an industry leader, as a CEO of a company, I'm keenly aware that most of the developments and the innovations that have been suggested here, the next big question is going to be asked of the CEOs. Is this an area where we need to invest? And can it be commercially viable? And it is really with that I believe the moral of the story has been that we have to continue to be engaged. And this forum, absolutely important that it brings all these disciplines together. And I've also been very pleased to see the students that have been in attendance, and also the unique opportunity that this Congress has given them to be able to interact with industry leaders, with regulators. And that's really what I would encourage, that this Congress, in its unique position, it should continue to, in that area of ensuring that all these disciplines are brought together so that we can make progress and we can move away from working in silos and work in unity. And I think that personally I have been equipped. Some of the projects that have been mentioned here are presented, and one of which my own company is involved in. It's very important that as we go out now to mobilize capital, even from those people that were not here, that we are able to do so confidently, and hopefully the world will be a better place. And I think the theme of the conference couldn't have been better defined. And it is my own assessment that indeed fossil fuels are here to stay for a little longer. We therefore are duty-bound to ensure that we can use these God-given resources for the betterment of humanity. And for those that maybe weren't here, and even to the younger people in the audience here, when I looked at the wisdom that came with the many, many years of experience and various people applying themselves in the areas of discipline, it reminded me of a story that was told many years ago. And it was told to me a little over 20 years ago about an old man who was walking in the village. And as the evening came, he was walking to his house and he missed this young man, about 17, 18, and you have a good idea what 17, 18-year-olds think like. And the old man says to the young man, pick up some cobblestones, put them in your pocket. Tomorrow, when you wake up, you will be happy and you'll be glad. I mean, you'll be sad. So you'll be happy and you'll be sad. And this young man thought, this is the dumbest thing that I've had a grown person say. Why on earth would I put cobblestones in my pocket? But he would not say that loudly. What he then did, he obliged out of respect. He took 3, he put them in his pocket, he went home. And when he woke up in the morning, when he was putting on his pants again, and then he remembered what he thought at the time was the dumbest idea that he had been given, that he must put cobblestones in his pocket. And he was happy to get rid of them at that point in time. And as he took them out of his pocket, lo and behold, he was absolutely happy because he had 3 diamonds. And he became very sad because he didn't pick up more. He wished that he had filled his pockets. And what am I saying by that moral of the story? That the wisdom that came out of this conference, it is imperative upon us to ensure that we fill our pockets with cobblestones, that we absolutely take that which has been given for free and therefore go and apply in our areas in the world where we work every day. It would be remiss of us to have gathered all of this information and not use it for the betterment of humanity. And I therefore say to you, my friends, and I would like to call you my friends because as I get to work with you, I absolutely am enriched, and I appreciate the level at which we are able to work together. I would like to leave you with these words, that when at some future date the course of history sits in judgment on our work and our deeds in our respective professional fields, will they find that we've been men and women of good character? Will they find that we've been men and women of good judgment? Will they find that we've been men and women of integrity? And I therefore say to you, with a good conscience, our only sure reward, let us go forth to lead the lands we love, asking for God's help and His blessing, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own for the betterment of humanity with the gifts that He has given us. I thank you.